In the very first issue of CSWN, we had a feature on the absolutely new products that were being investigated called PCSK9 inhibitors. And I'll tell you, it rolls off the tongue a lot better today than it did several years ago. Now we did a cover on PCSK9s probably last year, and now we have a couple that have been approved in the United States. We're here to talk about one at the ESC meeting, and that is alirocumab. And we're talking with one of the chief investigators on this topic. And first, congratulations, Professor Michael Farnier, MD, PhD, Point Medical, Dijon, France. It's got to be a road to go with something that's so new and get it through to approval in the United States. And it's still under consideration here in Europe, correct?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. We are the first. Not really the approval, but the first positive opinion from the CHMP, and we are waiting the final approval at the end of this month. So in theory, very soon, alirocumab shall be also available in Europe.
Exactly. Now in the US, alirocumab has been approved for use for patients who require additional lowering of LDL and have either an inherited form of high cholesterol, that's heterozygous familial hypercholesterolemia, or clinical atherosclerotic CVD, which includes people who have previously suffered a heart attack or stroke. And we have a variety of studies that have been presented here at ESC. So let's talk about one of them. It's the ODYSSEY trial. So we have efficacy and safety of the PCSK9 alirocumab versus placebo in 1,200 patients with heterozygous familial hypercholesterolemia. It's an analysis of up to 78 weeks from the 4 ODYSSEY trials. What did you report?
We have presented here, in fact, the largest analysis conducted right now in this specific population of patients with heterozygous familial hypercholesterolemia. It's a pool analysis coming from 4 different trials, and globally, very quickly, this pool analysis confirms the efficacy of alirocumab with 2 doses. 2 studies have been conducted with a starting dose of 75 milligrams every 2 weeks, with the possibility to have an up titration to 150 milligrams every 2 weeks. The 2 other studies use directly the maximum dose, 150 milligrams every 2 weeks. But globally, if you look at whatever the dose, the final dose, if you look at the global result, the complementary decrease in LDL cholesterol for patients very well treated, receiving maximum statin dose, and for half of the patient ezetimibe, the complementary decrease is between 55 and 60% in LDL cholesterol. So very impressive complementary decrease in LDL cholesterol on top of all the other lipid-lowering therapy available right now.
And this has been a tough group of people to manage over the course of time before now.
Yeah.
Now, in the second one I wanted to ask you about, there's it's also from the ODYSSEY program, sustained treatment effect of alirocumab on Lp(a), and it's a pooled analysis from about 5,000 patients in 10 phase 3 trials. So what about Lp(a)?
In fact, in each trial, it's true for all the PCSK9 inhibitors, but particularly with alirocumab, it has been observed a decrease on Lp(a) between 20, 25, 30%. And the objective of this new analysis is to look at all the data coming from the phase 3 trial to confirm first the decrease of Lp(a), of course, but to confirm and to see if this decrease in Lp(a) is dependent of baseline, is dependent of some specific category of patient, and it's such as a surprise. In fact, whatever the baseline of LDL cholesterol, whatever the category of patient, whatever the level of Lp(a), the mean decrease is always around 25%. What is the clinical significance and what is the mechanism of this unexpected decrease on Lp(a)? Frankly speaking, we don't know yet. You don't know yet, but it's a good signal to talk about maybe a complementary protection in terms of cardiovascular disease for the future due to this complementary decrease, due to this decrease on Lp(a). And it shall be very important to look at the result of the long-term ODYSSEY outcome trial, ongoing of course, and to look at if the expected decrease in the incidence of cardiovascular event is in line with the classical linear relationship between LDL cholesterol and cardiovascular event, or if you have more. If you have more, it's an argument to talk maybe on the effect on Lp(a), but we don't know. We have to wait and see.
There was another presentation here on statin utilization and LDL cholesterol goal attainment in patients at very high cardiovascular risk, insights from the French general practice population.
Yes, indeed, I am from France, as you have mentioned, and yes, indeed, in France we have some problem in the use of the high statin dose, and mainly, it's not only for GPs, but mainly for GPs, due to some national health recommendation and also the problem cost and so on. Very few patients receive a high statin dose. It's a big difference between US and France and other countries in Europe, and the proportion of patients receiving the high intensity statin is very low. It's not a good news for us in France, and we have to make some changes in the future, not only in the guidelines, but in the feeling, not only for GP, but also for health authorities to try to promote the use of high-intensity statin and to improve the current situation.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking to somebody earlier, and just off camera, he was saying how frustrating it is because you give somebody 80 milligrams of one of the statins, and their GP, they go back to their GP and they look at it, yeah. You don't need this high a dose, we'll put it down to 40. And you know, the cardiologist is going, no, he's on that for a reason.
Yes, but unfortunately we have to realize that we have some specific recommendation from GPs and some controls in GPs coming from health authorities, and unfortunately the GPs want to follow these guidelines to avoid some penalties.
Yeah, well, there is that. And lastly, LDL cholesterol remains an important predictor of CHD even in the statin era.
Oh yes, it's a very important point, because recent complementary meta-analysis of all the statin trials have clearly emphasized the fact that even it's on statin therapy, even if the level of LDL cholesterol is not so high, for example, 100 milligrams per deciliter, 80, 70, 50, every time we can decrease the level of LDL cholesterol, we have a complementary protection in cardiovascular disease. You have really a direct relationship between the level of LDL cholesterol on statin treatment and the residual risk of cardiovascular disease. So the message, you have not only to use a high statin dose, but to look at the level of LDL cholesterol. And I was very happy during this meeting to have several discussions with several US colleagues.
Right.
And we discussed with US colleagues, yes indeed, you have specific recommendation in US and the goal disappear in the recommendation. But my US colleague agree, yes indeed, we are using a high intensity statin, but we look at LDL cholesterol and we check if the recommended goal proposed in Europe have been reached or not.
Yeah, we have a lot of discussion in CSWN on that very topic too. So it has been great fun for us at this publication to follow the story of the PCSK9s through the last few years. So it's very nice to see a couple of them that have been approved by the Food and Drug Administration in the United States. Please look around for the rest of our coverage from the ESC 2015 meeting. For CardioSource World News, I'm Executive Editor Rick McGuire.